Hey Nerf Herder, I'm Addy Thomas.
And I am Ben Milton.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Certain Point of View. We are exploring the Star Wars galaxy week by week, and just sometimes what interests us as nerds as well. You can find all of the other podcasts that are part of the Certain Point of View family on our website, certainpov.com, and you find everything from Another Pass with Case Aiken to Fun and Games with Matt and Jeff to Reignite and the Scruffy Nerf Herders and all sorts of fun adventures and discussions that around the nerd world. You can find those again on our website, certainpov.com. So this is sort of a special moment.
This is a big episode for us, man.
Right?
I'm so, I can't believe it's already here.
Yeah.
This doesn't seem like 200 episodes.
Yeah, we started in 2015.
It does not seem that long.
It really doesn't. The time has really gone quickly. I feel like it's only, we've only been doing this for a year.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you listen to the show, it sounds like we've only been doing it for a year. but it's been great. It's been a really fun adventure to go on and to do, and I was thinking about just the evolution of the idea of hey, let's do a Star Wars podcast together.
Yeah.
That would just be a fun thing to do.
Yeah, because I was pretty resistant at first. I was like, there's such a crowded space. There are other
really
people
is.
in it.
And there are.
And it's still a crowded space.
And there are still
many
a
other
lot of people in it. You were right on all counts.
Right?
But I'm glad we didn't listen to you. I'm glad we did it anyway.
Yeah.
And because it's been fun. It's been a heck of a ride. And all the shows that you just mentioned and the people that are part of the Certain Point of View crew now, we wouldn't, a lot of them we wouldn't even know.
Yeah, for sure.
Matt, Jeff, and Mary, we wouldn't know those, know them very well. I mean, maybe peripherally through Case, but
I probably wouldn't know any of them. I probably wouldn't know Case either.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You definitely wouldn't have known Case because I wouldn't have invited him on the show.
Right.
So this show has been not only great for you and me, but just great for expanding the boundaries of our various friendships that we have with people, and those of you who listen, who have gotten in touch with us and talked to us about the show and are fans of the show or any of the shows, it's just been great. It's just been really cool to see it all kind of come together and continue to grow and become something. I mean, who knows what it's going to be? At the end of the day, I think about it, I'm I don't know what this show is about.
Yeah, I think we have general goals and ideas of what we want to do, but I think honestly there's so many things we'd like to do, and in some ways we got to narrow it down so that it's
it's a challenge.
What do we really, really have time for in the day? And money for
money
as well,
and time. Yeah, money and time. Those are the two things, right?
Because right now we're still making money off of other jobs. We're not making any money with this. We're doing it because right now
doing it for the love of the game, man.
Yeah, man. We love Star Wars.
We're purists, dude. We do. We're not doing it for the money.
I mean, we do love Star Wars, but we're not purists.
But I would totally do it for the money.
Yeah.
I would totally George Lucas the hell out of this podcast. We'd have action figures, bobbleheads, pajamas.
Well, I mean, we could probably get pajamas now.
I'd sell out everything. I'd sell everything with our face on it. In a heartbeat.
Well, it's good to know where your integrity lies.
my integrity lies at the door. right where the dollar bill starts is where my integrity ends. For this show. No, I do. I love this show. I love what we're doing. I love having the conversations with you. I mean, that's where our friendship really kind of started to take form.
With Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was the common ground that we found for each other.
Yeah.
To start liking each other.
Yeah, I mean, for a long time, every day, Star Wars quotes were a regular part of our conversations.
Yeah, and they continued to be.
Yeah.
They continued to be.
Yeah.
I think like most days there's an "I love you, I know" comment.
Yeah,
somewhere somewhere in the day.
Yeah, but like it feels like it's become more heartfelt and less of a reference. Now it's almost like we own it in a weird way.
It's true. It's true. If people could only see some of our private chats that we have.
Oh yeah, it's weird.
They're really bizarre, full of innuendo and jokes.
Well, it's really weird when like I comment on a Facebook post with you and your wife Jenny, and then it just suddenly devolves into something with you and me, and she's just like, "Come on, guys!
All right, get a room, you two." Yeah, she sort of embraced our bromance and just sort of goes with it at this point. She's just like, "Well, at least he has a friend."
He's not totally imaginary.
Yeah, exactly. This one I've seen. It's okay. It's fairly harmless. He indulges in probably a little too much, but it's fine. It's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah, man, this has been great. I'm so excited. It's funny because the community that we're building. I was thinking about this today too because we have a certain point of view Facebook chat group where we can all talk and share ideas and things that are going on, and we all keep in touch with each other. And Mary made a comment. She's like, "This chat is just like so positive and so nice to be a part of." And I was like, and I was thinking about that in the 2-hour commute I had home tonight. And I was just like, oh my God, this traffic is the worst. I don't want to do this anymore. But I was like, at least we have that. Like, at least we're creating a space for nerds that is a positive place to go. Yeah. Right? Like, the internet is dark and full of angry people right now. The whole world seems to be that way. As we're recording this the day before elections, and like it's at its fervor right now. Like, you can't go anywhere without people just seeming to want to be angry about something. And it's nice that you and I have, because of this silly little podcast idea about Star Wars, like, I've started to create a space in which people could be nice to each other. Like, let's see, it's you and me, the 5 people that are part of Certain Point of View now.
Yeah.
Like, we're all very different people.
You mean 6?
6, yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm bad at math.
Yeah.
Like, we're all very different people. Like, if we all sat down and talked about like what we believe and what we think about different things politically or socially and stuff like that, like, I'm sure there would be a wide gamut of ideas and beliefs and systems. But like, and even like in the nerd culture of like what we like and what we don't like and stuff like that. But we've kind of like veered away from the negativity and tried to create a space where it's like, hey, that's cool. If you really like that, that's great. Like, there's no animosity between any of us about any of that stuff. And I'm really proud of that. And I'm really proud of the Certain Point of View community that, like, that's what we've started to create here and the kind of community that we got. Because and we haven't been perfect about that. We got a little testy about The Last Jedi. and we've gotten, and there's been cases where, like, we've, gone down the negative path, but especially if it's Superman because he sucks. But the point is that, like, we have like a good community base here where it's really interesting and fun to be part of. And I think that's the thing that I'm most proud of when I think about Certain Point of View.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I like
good, because if you didn't, that would have been awkward.
Yeah, no, we're closed-minded. We're terrible. We're just awful people.
Well, that's true.
Well, yeah. Soulless individuals. We're hacks. No. No, I mean, this is one of the things I'm the most excited about. This is something that I love thinking about and working on, even when it is a little bit more, more work than I'd, sometimes like it to be. I unfortunately had to a couple months ago hand over editing responsibilities of the Scruffy Nerf Herders over to Case, and which hurt so bad because audio mixing is one of my absolute favorite things to do.
Right.
I love working on effects. I love playing with music levels and audio, our vocals and everything, and throwing effects on it and all of that. Like, that is my absolute favorite thing to do. That is the one thing I do miss about working in radio. Was really getting a chance to do that kind of work. Every now and then it was less so as time went on. But that Like that is what I wanted to do, going into media. So this has been a great avenue to do that. But what's been really cool is just all sorts of people who've kind of come out of the woodwork to talk to both you and I about podcasting as well.
Right.
Some nerds, some not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this whole the arena of podcasting. It's funny, like, because you don't have to go far before you find a friend who has a podcast anymore.
Doesn't seem like it now.
No, you don't, not anymore. But what's crazy is just that this is still sort of a sector of media that still really has so much more potential and is on the grow. And there's so many cool things that can come out of it and that can be done in it still.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited about it. We like making fun of Matt because it seems like the only way to communicate with Matt is
to be a guest on one of his shows.
Right, because he has so many podcasts right now.
Yeah.
I almost envy him. Like, because at one point, actually, you and I both were at those kind of numbers too. Like, we're hosting that, too many podcasts.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to being able to do that again. To be honest, to have 4, 5 podcasts that I'm actively working on,
or even video. You know, and starting to get into video and do things there too. You're absolutely right. It's so cool to see. It's funny when I made the mistake, and this is something I don't ever recommend people do, is like I went to experts in the field of broadcasting and was like, hey, what do you guys think about podcasting? Like, I'm thinking about starting a podcast. And they were like, oh, don't do that.
Of course.
That's, the only way you could be successful in podcasting or do well in podcasting is if, you've already have like this huge listener base from somewhere else that's going to follow you there, and then you can monetize it. Otherwise, this is a complete waste of time. And I listened to them, and for 2 years I didn't do a podcast.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest regret. I wish that when I had thought about it, then I wish that I had somebody in my life to go, yeah, go ahead, do it. It's free. What are you going to lose?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't cost hardly anything to get involved in podcasting. Like you got, a monthly subscription fee to host it. And then that's kind of like a microphone and some, you can get in very inexpensively. And I wish that I had done it, because I definitely had access to all the equipment and all the stuff then. And I didn't do it. And now I see like so many people have podcasts, including one of the people who told me not to do it has a podcast.
Funny.
Yeah. And I'm not going to call him out, but every time I see his podcast, I'm like, dick. but I'm glad he's doing it. I really am. I'm glad he's doing it. I'm glad that he took the jump to do it. I think it's great. I actually enjoy his podcast. I think it's a good podcast. But it's such a fantastic way to just put your ideas and your thoughts out there and to just have some fun and to relax. Even if you do never make a dime off of it, who cares? Like, it's just it's a great thing to do, and it's a great way to communicate with people and to keep in touch with people and meet new people, and to create community in social, especially in social media, where it's so easy to broadcast, but it's very hard to, like, I feel like social media has kind of like deconstructed people's relationships to, like, well, this is my thought, this is my tweet, this is what I think in 44 characters or whatever it used to be. I know they've upped it since now, but like, it's an opportunity for you and I. Like, I know Monday night you and I are going to sit down for at least an hour, hang out, and talk about stuff we care about.
Yeah.
And that is the best. That's I look forward to this every week, and I look forward to every other week when we record Scruffy Nerf Herders and sitting in Case's basement in that tiny hot room, laughing our asses off.
Yeah,
like just trying to derail Case at every turn, and just giggling to myself of like, oh, he's got to edit that. That's gonna suck. And just laughing.
That's more you than me. I just want to say I don't try to derail quite as much.
I do. I try so hard. I make plans. As much effort as he puts into DMing the game, I think about like, how can I screw up his next session? Yeah, I try to think like, where is he going with this? What is he going to try and do? And how can I foil him? And I love it. I love being able to hang out with you guys and our friends and just just be like when Sean was coming and hanging out with us, and when Corey is able to come and hang out with us. It's the best. I enjoy seeing those guys so much, and I wish there was, when we get to see Hans, occasionally when he's in town, we get to see him. Dickerson, when he's in town, we get to see him. We've had Hippolyte on, which is great. It's the last time I would never see Hippolyte if it wasn't for this podcast. Right. And I went back and I was looking at our download numbers, just to reminisce about all the different shows and stuff like that we've done. And I saw the Hippolyte episode. I was like, oh my God, that was so much fun. I miss Hippolyte so much. We got to have him back on just for the laughs. Right. Like, it was great. Those things are the best. And there's a lot of other people who, that talk to me about the podcast at work and stuff like that, and listen to the podcast, that like it's a point of contact for a relationship for me. And I love that. I absolutely love that.
It is for me too. That is one of those things that, people do ask from time to time about the podcast, and some people listen to it, and what's funny is, I think for me, enough of there's Star Wars, and then there's a lot of other nerd stuff that we talk about, but it's almost like I get practice for the podcast and just normal conversation, because it is such an extension of me. But it's also, what's really cool is it's also opened me up as a nerd. Like, there's so many more places in nerddom I want to explore, but it's also made me like more picky about certain things. And at the same time also like made me more interested in others. It's such a it's such an interesting and active way to explore things that's both introspective and opening as well.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because I've had to really it forced me to consider the things I'm saying on social media, how am I, do I want to be perceived the same way that I'm kind of perceiving some of the other people that are saying things on social media? And I read some of the things, I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. Right. It was funny. We did the Extra Life thing this weekend. It was great. And thank you so much to everybody who's involved. Huge shout out to Matt Storm for introducing this idea to us, and it was a great success. Certain Point of View raised over $2,000 for Extra Life and Children's Miracles Network hospitals in 24 hours this weekend, and it was amazing. Thank you. But we were watching BlizzCon for part of it, and some dude stood up and just said a really nasty comment to the developers of one of the games.
Yeah, it was for Diablo.
Yeah, it was just a horrible thing to say. Yeah, and I'm like. There was a bit of time before this podcast I would have been, that's a pretty funny comment. I like that. Yeah. And then but now that I've been doing this, and I saw that comment and I was just like, what a jerk.
And you see the frustration and pain in a developer, and who can't
fire back. Yeah. He can't be like, you're a dick. Yeah. You want to say that. Yeah. And we've had people come, a couple people come at us about this show. Not a lot. We don't get a lot of hate because we don't have a lot of listeners to get a lot of hate. Right. So, and that's changing. It's continuing to grow and develop, and it's great. It is what it is. We're not we're not in this really for the money or the fame. We do it because we love it. But to see that I'm thankful that I've done this, so that it caused, like you said, it opened me up to think, oh, hey, how do I really want to be perceived? And as someone who is creating something and not just a consumer of nerd entertainment, it gives me a different perspective about how those comments are received. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I don't think I would have quite understood. It was a quote unquote funny comment, but from someone who's actually trying to contribute something into the nerd community. That's a really hurtful thing to do and hurtful thing to say, and I don't want to be part of that. Yeah. So you're right. It's changed me. It's made me a better person doing this podcast, I think.
Yeah, I've noticed you tone down a little bit on some things too.
Other things though piss me off, man. Yeah. And I will get riled up. But I do better on social media about not getting involved in it. You know what I mean? If we're having a conversation about stuff, you and I, or even, I'll go at it with Jason when he and I talk, and we'll throw snide remarks at each other.
One thing I really like about podcasting is, there is a truth and an honesty that you at least you should have to it, depending on the format. If if you're doing a drama podcast, it's totally different,
right?
But authenticity is sort of important to podcasting, I think. I'm sure there are people who probably aren't and may even do well, but I don't listen to them, at least, or at least I don't think I listen to them.
Well, there's so many out there that
it's bound to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of the things that I do really enjoy about this, that we haven't compromised on necessarily what we feel, but we've exercised a lot of wisdom in how we express it and how we open the discussion to people. Right. And I think that does so much, especially in today's atmosphere. But one of the things I'm really excited for, though, is to have more people be a part of this as time goes on, have more people join certain point of view, and also for us to be able to help other people, even if they're not, doing a nerdy podcast, is to help them launch their podcasts. And, I think one of the cool things that we're really excited about, while we've officially launched it, we still have a lot of work to really get it going, is Certain Point of View Studios.
Yeah.
Ben and I will help consult and work with people who are serious about podcasting, because, obviously that's it's a huge investment from us, and from you as well, if you're interested in podcasting. We're not necessarily interested in somebody who just wants to do it, just for
once.
Yeah. Who's willing to week in or week out or every other week, or really commit to being a podcaster. If you really think that's something that can help you or your business, or that's something you really want to do, and you want it to be a legit, like, a good podcast that people can listen to,
right?
That's something we'd love to help you with, if you're truly interested in doing it. So, you can always contact us on our website. Just go to certainpov.com. We are also going to talk about a new episode of Star Wars Resistance that just came out this week. So, let's do that for a little bit, and we'll have a couple more, just memories of podcasting and for the past 200 episodes. But we had a new episode 6 of season 1, The Children of Tehar, came out for Star Wars Resistance, and I really enjoyed this. Like, this felt like a little bit more of what I've been wanting for Resistance. I've definitely been the more positive one about the show overall. You are too, but I'm definitely a little bit more. I've been much more optimistic about the potential for the show, and this is one where I really like getting a chance to see more world building happen here, and explicit world building about the nature of the First Order. It doesn't necessarily tell us something that we've never known before, but we do have a greater idea of, like, the way the threat of the First Order is starting to really emerge at this point.
Yeah, I agree. This did a great job. This is what I want out of this series, of, like, actually getting into the spying and actually, like, they've spent a lot of time on the platform and introducing us to the characters on the platform, and they have to do that because you got to establish that world, but now they're finally past that point, and finally, like, we're 6 episodes in. It's not like this has been a huge long, this isn't like The Walking Dead where we're just really pulling the taffy too long. This was great. Like, this was a lot of fun. They introduced a totally new race,
the turtle people.
Yeah, the Tortolans. A turtle has made it to the engineering quarters. If you play WoW, that's funny. So you had a new race, but it also felt a lot like Star Wars. Like, when they're especially when the kids are stealing the food, right? And you have the Ugnaught chasing them.
Yeah.
And there's all these, like, weird little creatures and stuff like that in the marketplace. Like, it felt very Star Wars to me. Like, just in atmosphere alone, I was like, oh, this feels like Star Wars. This is what Star Wars should be. But it's a completely new setting, a completely new set of cast and characters and things, but it still felt like Star Wars to me. The First Order was really menacing in this, and they're using Phasma really fantastically.
Yeah.
As the bad guy, like, as that Darth Vader figure. They're using Phasma fantastically, and Kylo Ren is kind of the Emperor in this scenario.
Yes,
you
absolutely.
know, like he is feared.
Yeah.
Feared. You don't see him. He's only talked about, and it's great. I loved this episode. If they keeps going like this, we're in for maybe the best yet.
Yeah.
I loved it.
It was some good character growth moments too, as well. Yeah. What do you? So we've got a number of characters that were, that really we got to play with in this episode. Obviously Kaz had some major moments in development as far as he's been he's sort of spazzy and naive. And I think that was an interesting thing to play on, like him being naive about a bounty being placed on these kids.
Yes. It was they must be lost. Somebody really wants them back.
Yeah. But you know what? That's where that's one of the big payoffs for me, as far as he's so used to his life of privilege that he doesn't think the world is quite as dangerous
and dark as it really is. Yeah,
exactly. So because for him, he comes from a family where his dad would do that,
right?
For
of course,
him.
Yeah.
So he thinks obviously that's his truth, that's his perspective. So he thinks that's the
how
same
everybody
for these
is.
kids
right.
as well. As opposed to the First Order trying to hunt down these kids who are witnesses to their village being just completely wiped out, and they want to make sure to eliminate any witnesses and anybody who could spread rumors of them. So I thought that was a really interesting perspective. Yes, it still maintained the integrity of it being a kids show, but also dealt with some sort of mature things. Like, I think that's one of the cool things about Star Wars is Star Wars has always been for kids, but there are plenty of dark and mature things that happen in that. I mean, right from get-go, like Luke making the decision to join the Rebel Alliance after losing his aunt and uncle.
Or right from the get-go, Vader storms the Tantive and just kills a ton of people.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. But for a character that you get particularly connected with. I
guess I connected with Vader. You connected with Luke.
So, yeah. It's a little disconcerting.
That kind of sums up our relationship right there. That's everything you need to know about this podcast.
Right.
I'm like, oh, you're so far into the story. I'm like, oh, no. Right off the bat.
But yes, he as a point of view character, I think it's important that we're getting that perspective and that viewpoint into the Star Wars universe. I also thought that this was a great character. We got some great character moments, or a great character moment for Niku. The generosity of him, because for a while he's just been sort of that character who's just so
awkwardly fun.
Well, he's very much like Drax, where he's such a literalist about everything.
Yes.
Which works at times and doesn't. But for the sake of he's usually been more of a plot device. Whereas here, the spirit of Niku, as far as being someone who's willing to help from even with his own money, is it may not mean anything in the future, or at least immediately, but it is one of those places where you get to see okay, this is a show for kids where we're teaching lessons. This is the mythology side of Star Wars, and this is a big part of what I love about this universe.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, I mean, it's fun because I just finished watching it right before we started recording, and you're right. That is it's a quiet moment and it's a subtle moment, but it's the kind of moment that when you're a kid watching this, that's the kind of thing that sticks with you,
right?
When I was growing up and we had the G.I. Joe cartoon, and at the end of the G.I. Joe cartoon, they do a little moral lesson.
Yeah.
Those moral lessons stuck with me.
Yeah.
They were corny as hell and dumb. Looking back, I was like, well, this is ridiculous. but as a kid,
they're still powerful, though.
Yeah,
That's
and they're still true. Yeah, and that little moment of Nico saying, oh, well, if
I have money.
I have money.
What it's for.
That's what it's for. Is for when somebody is in need. I give it. That. That's beautiful, and that's mythology, and that's the power of storytelling. And that is what's great about Star Wars. You know, it's for kids. and it should be, and I'm thankful for it. And I'm glad that I'm like not so grown up that I don't enjoy it anymore.
Right.
And that I still like see that, and I smiled when I saw that moment. I was like, oh, that's great. Like that's a really cool moment.
Well, and to build on that, you also have the perspective of the turtle people, and this race of people who are just basically janitors in this world. You know, they are low-class citizens on this platform, but they're everywhere, and they're totally an asset that's sort of unrealized. And I think what's fascinating is the generosity that they also share, and the boldness that they have in being willing to protect the kids as well. But and what to me is an incredibly standout moment, again, like coming back to the issue of sort of money and generosity, is, you know, Niku sort of obliviously tells them that, you know, Kaz wants to make a lot of money off of this, but there's no effort at any time ever by the turtle people to like try to collect in on that.
Right,
you
yeah.
know?
Which I totally expected.
Right.
I was totally expecting.
Well, Kaz expects it.
Yeah.
Like the moment he says
he
it,
rolls his eyes. It's just like, oh shit.
Right.
Yeah. And I was right there with him. I was like, well, there goes his money. And I was like, oh no, they didn't. Like they did the right thing. It was just like whatever. It's interesting. It's a little pie in the sky idealist, but
sure.
But I like
that. That's
that.
also the nature of, I think, this type of storytelling.
Yeah,
you know,
and for the demographic that they're aiming this at, right? Like this isn't you know, Game of Thrones,
right?
Which does its own morality play in its own way. It's just a little bit different.
Yeah.
I love this episode. This was a lot of fun. I'm curious to see where it goes from here. I was thinking about this episode and then the episode previously. The what is he? The general? The admiral?
Captain Doza?
Captain, yes.
That's who I wanted to bring up next. Yeah. So what was your thoughts?
He very much reminds me of, and this show was incredibly influential to me growing up, which was Star Blazers. Or as it was called in Japan, Battleship Yamamoto. There's the old admiral who's in charge of the ship is I can't remember his name. And he reminds me very much of that character. Like there's always like that older admiral or captain or whatever who kind of has the turtleneck and the beard and the visor that like comes down to just over his eyes. Like he reminds me very much of that stereotype character. And I am all about that guy.
Yeah.
I can't wait to find out more about that guy.
Yeah.
And because he seems to be, well, he's clearly caught in a rock in a hard place with the First Order.
Well, and we see him that he is in such a tough place that he decides to give up some information to the First Order.
Right. Yeah, in an effort to kind of like well, I may need them. It's either play nice with them or they're going to destroy this place.
Right.
Is kind of the feeling that you get about it. And he has to deal with Phasma, and it's an icy relationship. It's a contentious relationship between the two. And I like it. I like that. I'm curious to see how that plays out. I suspect it won't play out very well for him in the end.
Yeah.
And I hope it doesn't.
So you don't think he'll ultimately side with the First Order? You think he's, like, right now they're just too heavily shading in that direction that you're going to have that, not necessarily a turn, but, like, you think he's ultimately a good guy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who may have to make some questionable decisions.
He makes some questionable decisions along the way and some hard decisions along the way that are justified along the way to protect his family and protect the platform and the people there. But ultimately, I think, he will fight against the First Order and lose.
Well, that's what I'm really loving about this character so far, and really, this is really only the second time we've had like actual time with Captain Doza. He's been referred to before, but I really like that we got to spend some actual time with him again, and I think he offers such a fascinating perspective in the Star Wars universe of someone who's, you know, caught between sort of the Resistance and the First Order, and the conflict hasn't even started yet. This is what this is just like the tension before it. Like we're in the 6 months before The Force Awakens, before war breaks out between these two factions, and to see him, like, see people who are, you know, like, yes, he's not trying to scratch out a living, but he's in charge of a place where there are people who do have to do that. And he has people who are a little bit more privileged as well. But either way, he is trying to serve the needs of the people on this platform. Like, right now, we get the sense that he's not motivated by greed, but he is motivated by his people's welfare. Mm-hmm. And he seems like a good leader so far. So I am enjoying, like, this is one of those things where you get to see sort of like the geopolitical struggle and what it means for people caught up in that.
Yeah.
Who don't necessarily want to be a part of that conflict either. Right. You know, it's one of those things that I think, Clone Wars does incredibly well as a series. And Rebels does, but Rebels was a lot more focused on sort of the cell of Rebels. Yeah. But it's one of those things that, George Lucas and Dave Filoni were able to really refine in Clone Wars to be that some of that was a lot tougher to handle in the movies, and it's one of those things that people complain about. At least I've heard some complaints about in the sequel trilogy right now, is that they don't get a sense of what the Empire or what the
what the First Resistance and what the fight is about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which it was an interesting sort of realization to me today. I've heard people complain about it's only been 30 years since the Rebel Alliance won over the Empire. Now we're back in this conflict over again.
World War I, World War II.
There's Move that, along. But it's funny. So you have the World Wars, but it's like people have forgotten that almost 29 years after the American Revolution was won, you had the War of 1812, where you had the same aggressor.
Yeah,
you had someone who broke away from an empire. Yeah. That exact war play out again. Have to reaffirm, your status.
Yep.
as a separate nation. And 1812 is also really important as far as the U.S. Establishing its identity as well on the world stage. So I'm really excited to see what J.J. Abrams has in store for Episode 9. I hope that they're not too affected by people who want quote-unquote course correction. Because I keep on seeing headlines that everything is being treated as course correction in this next movie. And which could mean a billion different things, because that could be in response to Solo, or that could be in response to Last Jedi. Who knows?
Could be in response of just putting too many movies out too quickly.
Right. Which I don't think they put too many out personally.
Solo came out too soon.
Solo came out too soon.
Out too soon.
Solo should be coming out next month.
Yeah.
That was bad timing, and it seems like Bob Iger does feel. I think we talked about that on a previous episode.
Yeah.
That he did take the blame for that, and that scheduling seems to be the big blame for that. But
because it was a good movie.
Yeah,
it was a really good movie. It was a lot of fun.
I've rewatched it, and I had a lot of fun rewatching.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. It's really good, and it's not a movie I wanted to see. And we've talked about this ad nauseum too. Of I'm ready to move on outside of what this era of Star Wars.
Well, when it was announced, that's one of the ones I was least excited about.
Yeah. But it was fun, and I did enjoy it. It wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm not giving them my money for this. Absolutely, If it's got a Star Wars name on it, I'm going to pay to go see it for sure. But I'm ready to move on in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
But I don't think that there needs to be dramatic course correction either. And I don't feel like you. I feel like you would kind of see that also in a show like this, in Resistance, where there's going to be massive course correction. We got to fix it. There doesn't seem to be anything really happening that's massively different than what we saw. You know what I mean? The only thing the one course correction I would make with Resistance is get rid of BB-8. He's got to go. Yeah. He has to go.
Well, it's got to, in a matter of time. I feel it's just a matter of time.
I don't understand why he's there.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah.
Other than a toy grab.
Yeah, it seems like it's familiar. Like people, they felt like, oh, we got to have a familiar character of some sort or something that looks a whole lot more familiar.
But they didn't for Rebels.
Yes and no, because the thing is with Rebels, you had a Jedi right off the bat. And here's one thing I'll say. I was a little concerned that they brought a Jedi right off the bat. I was like, oh, so we're going to, we're getting into this Rebel Alliance, and, Luke is supposed to be special with a light, he's like one of the only Jedi in the Rebel Alliance, and now we got, Kanan. Oh, and now we got Ezra, too, So, there were, I did have some concerns with that, sure, he's a Kanan is a survivor of Order 66, and I was like, okay, but it does feel a little weird to have, they handled it very well.
But it wasn't like it was like Syndulla or Plo Koon or it wasn't anybody we knew. You know what I mean? It was still unfamiliar. Yes, he was a Jedi.
True. Yeah.
But we didn't know him. We didn't know anything about him.
Yeah, but you know what? There's a lot of cash in Star Wars. The moment you got someone with a lightsaber,
sure.
There's a certain bit of credibility. This I think is having a tougher time without any Force users.
I don't think so.
You don't get that sense in the fan community. I think for us,
I don't pay attention to the fan community anymore. I really don't. Yeah. I don't have time to.
Yeah,
and that's not because I literally don't have time to pay attention to the fan community anymore. I can't. I can't.
I do think that if there was a person, either a person in Mandalorian armor or someone with a lightsaber, that people would be a little bit more accepting of this. And even with people who are positive about this, I've had very interesting, extensive discussions with our buddy David Adams.
Okay.
On this, and who's super fan when it comes to Star Wars. He's the guy who got me into Star Wars, and I eventually got him into Clone Wars, and he is such a Clone Wars.
I love
and
David,
a Rebels.
He's a huge fan. Yeah. He's just a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, but particularly Clone Wars and Rebels, he loves along with us. He's having a tough time with this show right
really?
now. He's finally gotten on board with the animation style and just with the amount of detail and what it can do and everything like that.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. But he's still a little I feel like we're doing a lot of innocuous stories right now. I don't really he doesn't necessarily have the Star Wars feel yet.
And that's where I think this episode really shined.
Right.
I feel like this felt like a Star Wars universe story.
Yeah.
And I don't need I don't need a Mandalorian. I don't need a Jedi. I don't even need a Wookiee. I would love a Wookiee.
Yeah.
But I don't need a Wookiee in my Star Wars for it to be Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's a big, big, big universe.
Here's the thing, though. I do think Rebels, in terms of the crew that they put together, is okay, you had, this isn't a critique of Resistance by any means, because I'm totally on board right now. But Rebels, from an outside appearance, almost look constructed perfectly for a Star Wars fan, an original trilogy Star Wars fan, because you knew Ezra was your Luke Skywalker analog, you knew Kanan was sort of your Obi-Wan, you had a wizened old Jedi type of person, mm-hmm. You had your hotshot pilot with Hera, you had your spunky Mandalorian. With Sabine, Zeb, was totally Chewie. In fact, that was the original art for Chewbacca was Zeb mm-hmm. that they used for his species. And you had a droid as well, that another astromech. So on a ship that looks a lot like a freighter. Mm-hmm. That has some resemblance to the Millennium Falcon. Mm-hmm. So there were certain checkboxes that were hit there, which was funny is because what I love is that there were so many people hating on that because it checked the boxes so obviously.
Yeah.
But then created such an original team of characters. Whereas I think some people are so scared about this is almost incredibly different from
It is.
from what we've seen before. There are certain aspects that are Star Wars-y in terms of the underworld, but it's honestly not things that stand out. Like, if you had someone name, like, the things that people like about Star Wars, you'd actually have to get a little deeper on the list, I think, to get to these things on Resistance.
You know what they've done
Star
here?
Wars.
You know what they've done? They've taken their first step into a
much larger world.
Yeah!
Yeah!
But they really have.
Yeah.
But they really have, and I'm super appreciative of that because, look, for Star Wars to continue and to be loved, it's got to grow.
Yeah.
You can't keep going to that same well over and over and over again,
right,
without people like going, well, I've already seen this.
Yeah.
You know? So, this is great. This is fantastic. This is everything I hoped it would be. Speaking of Star Wars and shows, I just found out there's another Star Wars show starting this Saturday. Star Wars Legos.
Yeah, Lego All-Stars?
With Star Wars.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Oh, there have been already a couple ones. There's the Freemaker Chronicles. That's already been going. I think that just ended recently. There's a couple other shows that we don't do anything with.
I had no idea these shows were even on.
Freemaker actually looks like a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to All-Stars.
All-Stars looks incredible. I just saw it on Disney XD.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I was, what was I doing? I was channel surfing the other night with Aiden, and we saw the trailer for it. I think we were watching Phineas and Ferb.
Yeah.
We were watching Phineas. That's exactly what we were watching. We were watching Phineas and Ferb. The kids were downstairs with me watching Phineas and Ferb Sunday as, I was just, like, completely zoning after doing Extra Life, and we were down here watching Phineas and Ferb and laughing our butts off because, Impractical Jokers had just finished, and so we switched over to Phineas and Ferb.
Yeah.
And, I saw that and I was like, there's a Star Wars show? It's a Lego Star Wars show? And Aiden was like, Papa, what's that? And I was like, I don't know. But we're going to watch it.
Yeah, there's a bunch, dude. There's a Yoda series, too. Like,
what?
Yeah, there's a lot. Like, I got to see where my issue has been trying to access it on something I already subscribe to.
Uh-huh.
That's been one of the big challenges. Like, I'm really looking forward to Disney Play, dude.
Yes.
Because they better, like, all this stuff better be on there.
It's got to be there.
Because right now, like, because I did my cable subscription, I don't have Disney XD, so I borrow your login to watch Resistance right now. But what I did for the last season of Rebels is I actually did the Amazon Video Season Pass.
Oh, okay.
So I paid for it, and I own those episodes on Amazon right now just for the last season of Rebels.
Gotcha.
And I was like, I wasn't sure whether or not I wanted to do that for the first season of Resistance necessarily. So, I intend to go and buy the rest of Rebels as well, especially since I'm kind of in a digital only. Like
welcome to 2018.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't need to get DVDs to take up space.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. I'd just rather own digital copies and access it from.
Yeah, the same guys who told me not to do a podcast were the same ones who told me, like, why are you using Spotify? Get a CD or a vinyl record. Like, you gotta have a physical
You're gonna have to
copy.
Tell me who this is afterwards.
Okay. All right, you dinosaurs.
Yeah, right. I know. Oh my god! Like I've got so many devices. I have Spotify on every single one of them.
I can't live without it.
Laptop, desktop. Yeah. I've got like 2 tablets.
Yeah.
My Switch.
Yeah.
My phone, my work computer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't go anywhere without Spotify.
Right? Man, that is crazy.
Yep.
I'm just a smartwatch away from being like complete from being a cyborg.
I use Spotify so much they're giving me a Google Mini.
Oh, nice.
That's how much I use Spotify.
I believe it. I believe it.
They emailed me, it was last week, and they were like, you are a valued customer. Would you like a Google Mini? I was like, yes, I would.
Oh, yeah. No, Spotify is one of those things that, and that's actually something I recently became known for at work, actually, is that I'm such a Spotify fan that, like, sometimes people have come to me because they need help, like, navigating their Spotify.
That's great. Well,
it's funny because, like, I got on Spotify almost as like almost
Yeah.
right after you did, I think.
Yeah.
And that
Maybe a
was
week
that
or
wasn't
so.
that wasn't the initial wave of invites in the U.S., but it was pretty early.
Yeah.
In the process, and it. I went premium. There are a couple brands I'm an evangelist for,
Yeah.
and Spotify is definitely
one of them. Because you can find certain point of view in all of our podcasts
That is
on
true.
Spotify, and I was so
Nearly
happy.
every podcast that I listen to is available on Spotify.
Yeah, there's only one that I listen to that's not.
Yeah.
And if I didn't love it so much,
I know I wouldn't. Yeah,
I
make
wouldn't
the
listen
effort.
to it. Yeah. I hate having to go somewhere else to listen to audio. I
know.
hate it. I hate the experience of having to open up a different app.
And they've really made their podcast app
Really
a
nice.
whole lot better.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. So if you're listening to this show and a Spotify user, you can find the show on Spotify and stop using what other apps you're currently using. It's totally cool with us. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally
Although
fine.
we would appreciate
A
reviews
rating
on
and review.
iTunes.
Ratings
Yes.
and reviews on iTunes are always appreciated.
Yes.
And also on Facebook. Ratings and reviews on Facebook are
Yeah.
just as valuable to us.
Absolutely. Any other big thoughts with the Children of Tehar?
No.
Yeah.
No. I think we covered it. I mean,
Did like a new stormtrooper with shiny armor, Commander
gold.
Yeah.
The gold
Commander
armor.
Pike?
I don't
Pyle?
remember.
Something
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. We'll see if he's going to be a regular. I have a feeling he's going to be a regular.
I think he's our main bad guy, yeah.
Oh, I think the
And that and the Red Baron
The Red
dude.
Baron, yeah, in the
Yeah.
red armor. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be a main one. Yeah, it's good. I'm enjoying I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying how they're using Phasma. Like I hate how they used her in the movies.
Yeah.
I really hate how they used her in the movie. So I'm enjoying her getting some time and hearing just what a badass she is and how she behaves. It's cool. It's very cool. Kaz, I could take or leave, but
Yeah.
he's a stereotype at this point. He hasn't really developed much for me, but I think as the show goes on, I'll love him as much as I loved Ezra.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have very high hopes for this show. Very high hopes.
Well, so that's it for our thoughts on Rebels. We're gonna just wrap up, just looking back a little bit on our 200 episodes. And Ben, actually, let's start with you. Well, what are sort of, we've talked about some of our thoughts for the future. What we'd like to do with a certain point of view, especially with the studios. I don't think it hurts to say it here, but I think we do hope to open up physical studios in the DC area.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
we're gonna sit down next week and we're gonna lay out like a more detailed plan as far as how we're gonna do that. But yeah, the physical studios are a huge goal for us and for me personally. I really want to open those up and have a physical place for us to encourage people to podcast. Any podcast, any form of podcasting, whether it be, a nerdy podcast or just a business podcast of some sort, or a fiction podcast, like where you're telling stories and stuff like that, radio dramas and stuff like that. I want to have space available that has, and we've talked about having space for a long, long time. We've talked about opening like a comic book store / podcast studio,
events,
screenings, screenings and stuff like that. Like we got to find like the right space and the right way to do it. And we're going to in 2019. That's one of the things that's gonna happen for sure. Everything seems to be coming together to make that happen. The finances look like they're going to be there. So we'll see. We'll figure it out. And I think we'll continue to grow this show and the other shows around the brand as well too, which is going to be really exciting. But looking backwards, like there's so many great moments. I mean, honestly, like one of my favorite episodes is still the very first episodes where we argue about the Ewoks.
right.
I
Our
love
classic.
I love that argument.
Yeah.
I love that argument. That's an argument that will never end for you and I. Never. And there is no right, there is no wrong. There's just it's two different points of view about something that's just fun. Like, there's just something fun about having that argument with you that I
because we always do. It'll flare up
every once in a while. It'll just like pop up and be like, "Yeah, stupid Ewoks," or you'll say something about that's exactly why the Ewoks won, and then I'll get all mad and throw something. It's the best. I love it. I love that. I love that argument. That is still one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
The Kevin Hippolyte episode is again another one of my favorites, talking about Batman, the very first one.
My favorite is the Revenge of the Sith repitch that we did with Case.
With Case, yes.
And that eventually developed into Another Pass.
Another Pass, yeah.
Yeah. But Revenge of the Sith in particular, because I brought a much more detailed pitch.
Yeah, you came to win.
Yeah, like I had a scene scenes planned out, you know.
You wrote a script.
But like it was such a fun exercise.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's been so cool about this show, because, you know, even Scruffy Nerfers originally was an episode, A Certain Point of View.
Yeah.
We were like, well, you know what, this probably should be its own podcast, you know? And the same with Another Pass. Mm-hmm. And, I like that we get to do a lot of things. Like, you know me, I love radio drama, you know, and my hope is to really get a chance to make something like that happen in the near future. But I think we need to get to a different place with the Certain Point of View podcast and family, and with Patreon and all of that, for us to really be able to devote time to something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am excited about the prospect of, like, you know, like figuring out a World of Warcraft podcast, you know.
Yeah.
This is something that we love, you know. Figuring out podcasts for the things that we really enjoy. And other shows and different types of shows, you know, and different types of exercises. You know, for me, you know, I've always wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons for a long time, and while I still haven't, we've played a Star Wars, you know, equivalent of it. You know, obviously that's still designed more for entertainment than necessarily played through the way the DM might necessarily play through. But, you know, it's been such a great experience that I'm excited about playing some actual D&D at some point, you know, even if it's not on a podcast, but I kind of feel like it probably will always be on a podcast for us.
At this point, right?
I mean, why not?
We can't do anything if we're not recording it.
Exactly. We're that self-absorbed.
So that is the best. This feeds my narcissism so well. It scratches that narcissistic itch so well. I love it. I absolutely love it.
In the future, I'm actually really, really excited for, we've got MagFest coming up, the Music and Gaming Festival in January, early January of 2019. I believe it's like January 3rd through the 6th. And we're planning to get together with some of our other Certain Point of View buddies.
All of them, I think, are going to be there.
Yeah, there's a good chance that everyone who's part of the Certain Point of View family will be there. Fingers crossed that'll happen. I've already bought my pass for the weekend, so I'm excited about that, and actually getting a chance to meet some people that, you know, we've only talked to, you know, virtually.
Yeah.
So it'll be exciting to do some in-person recordings with all of them.
Oh, I'm so excited by that. Like when you pitched that idea and everybody was like, "Yeah, I'm going to that."
Well, it was funny.
I was like, "Oh my god, this is happening!"
Because I had clicked. I was interested in, you know, MagFest a while ago, and then I saw other people. I was like, I saw Matt and Jeff both click it, and I was like, are they both coming down?
Are we going to be like in 10 minutes from each other?
Right, I know.
Not even know it?
Exactly. It's like, we can't, like, that's not something we can just kind of like let go, you know? So it looks like we might get a chance to do that. You know, I want to give a huge, as we're wrapping up this episode, you know, I do want to thank a few people, like anyone who's given on Patreon.
Yes.
You know, there's probably some people I'm going to forget, but I do want to thank John Lutz, who's been on the podcast with us. I want to thank Sean
Lyons.
Yeah, Sean Lyons, who has also been a big part of this podcast, who's helped us so much from everything from graphic design and logos, and has been just a blast to hang out with and watch movies, even if he vehemently disagrees with us. He's always had a rationale behind it. He has never been a mindless hater of anything. Or lover of anything, so it's always been an absolute blast. Some of my buddies like Brian Sue for being also a Patreon and a regular supporter, and someone I loved, like, who'll continue the discussion after the podcast with me from time to time. But there's a lot of other people, J. Mike. Corey are in particular some of the people that have been a big help. Carmen Shamwell is another person who's helped us, especially as we did so far our only panel at a con, but I'm sure there's going to be plenty more to come. But in particular, we also got Matt and Jeff and MJ. But in particular, I actually really, really, really want to thank Case.
Yeah. Because
Case was an early guest, and then started to become a regular guest, and then started to become a collaborator. And in all of that, like, he's brought so much energy to Certain Point of View and to all the different podcasts, and has been a wealth of ideas, and is been a big part of the Certain Point of View family and helping, pointing us in the right direction, sometimes helping us point ourselves in the right direction, or re-engineer something just a little bit more. So I do want to thank Kay so much for being a huge part of the Certain Point of View family. Ben, do you have any thoughts before we wrap up?
I mean, I all the Patreons who've given over time, like, that support means so much. To give your hard-earned money to us to encourage us to continue to do this is amazing. Like, it feels so good to see that. And Case has been huge. I'm so thankful for him as well. I'm trying to. Quinn has been another big supporter of our show, and I'm so thankful for his support. Sean, of course, like, for everybody. It's overwhelming when I start to think about, like, all the people who have encouraged us and have been big fans of the show. Hans has been a huge supporter of the show. Thank you so much, Hans. I know I'm missing people. I feel like it's weird. Like, I feel like there's an orchestra playing me out right now. And I'm like, no, wait. I know there's more people. I just want to say thank you.
I want to thank my mom. I want to thank Jesus.
All the guests that we've had on, recently with Michael and it was Michael and Elena. Yeah,
really fun guests for us.
Really fun guests.
Just picked up their book.
Yeah, I'm so excited for them and that book and what they're doing and the other guests that we've had on. It's been awesome. Like, this adventure has been really, really fun, and we've met some amazing people along the way and gotten to do things and talk to people that I really wouldn't have thought we've been able to, like having
Heather Antos,
Mike and Ming.
Yeah.
I just saw Ming is going to be in Ashburn in December.
Oh, no way.
I thought we'd go see him and pick his brain about Shared Universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've had, like, just some really cool things, and then we're going to be able to do even more cool things. And because you listen to this show, it makes it possible. So thank you for kind of making our lives sort of a dream come true. You know what I mean? Like, who would have thought, like, we would be sitting across the table from Ming and Mike and just chatting, and just hanging out and sharing stories afterwards and seeing those guys. It was cool. It's just been really cool. Be able to go to cons as not just a regular attendee, but as somebody who's part of that community, and to be part of that community. Ben Goldsmith.
Yeah. My God. Huge supporter of the show.
Yeah, and I love Ben. He's got a Kickstarter going on right now for Seance Room. Please go support it. We need more of Ben Goldsmith in the world.
Especially in comics.
Yeah.
Hopefully TV and movies
soon,
if possible too.
Yeah, that guy is so talented. It's ridiculous. So thank you to everybody. Thank you so much. I'm going to start crying soon and getting long-winded. So thank you, everybody. This has been awesome.
Yep. And if you'd like to figure out if you want to be a part of this podcast and through Patreon, you can find that information on our website along with all of our social media, so you can hang out and talk to us. We're always happy to chat with people on our social media, even if it is very quiet right now. Trust me, that is not something we like. We love responding to people on Facebook and chatting with people about nerd stuff all the time. So feel free to message us on social media. Again, that's on our website, certainpov.com. And until next time, stay scruffy, my nerf herder.